James Craze Billings, and in my journey of entertainment and media, I've come across many and many of fascinating people, which gave me the idea to test a new show I created called Incredible Stories. Now, these stories are 100% real life experiences that the individuals decided to share with me in a storytelling style and relive some of the unbelievable moments of their lives. I need my online audience to comment and let me know their thoughts of my new show. Now, please subscribe to my channel and share our links to help us grow. And if you have an incredible story, contact me at Craze the King of Content. Now, enjoy my new show.
My name is Janet Russell. I'm 74 years of age. I live out in Long Island in Medford, New York. My experience actually took place in Medford, New York. The actual experience that I had was March 27th, 1962. I was 4.5 months pregnant with my youngest daughter. I was actually on Route 112, then it was a dirt road. Now it's not a dirt road any longer. I left my home about 6:15 in the evening. I had a 6:30 appointment with my gynecologist, you know, because I was pregnant from pregnancy, you know, a normal monthly checkup. And on the way down to the doctor, I was driving. It was a very quiet night. It was, well, it was dark. It wasn't, you know, it was looked like the kind of night it is like now. It gets dark early because it was in March. And as I was driving, I happened to look up in the sky and it looked like a moon, but it was purple and it kept spinning and changing colors. It was silver and green and yellow. And I mean, it was just, I was like amazed by it. Okay, I got to my doctor at 7:30. I was supposed to be there at 6:30. So I actually lost an hour and 15 minutes time from the time that I, you know, left the home. When I got there, as soon as I walked in, I could literally hear him speaking, but not verbalizing. I could actually hear what he was thinking. Why are you here so damn late? You're supposed to be here an hour before. And then he verbalized it and he said, why are you here so late? And I said, I'm not late. And he's like, oh yes you are. You're supposed to be here at 6:30. I'm just ready to leave. And I went, yeah, but it is 6:30. And he said, and what happened to your face? I'm like, now I was very shy at that. I was a very shy young person, which of course no longer, I'm not that any longer. And I said, what do you mean what happened to my face? He says, look at it, were you in Florida? I'm like, no, why would you say that? My face was actually peeling, like a, you know, like when you have a sunburn and it's like that one layer comes off, the very burnt, and it was beet red. And that was it. I get home after the visit, and my husband said, what happened to you? You know, why are you so late, and what happened to your face? And then I started to tell him, I said, I saw the weirdest thing in the sky. I said, and I lost an hour's time. And from that time on, I became instantaneously interested in UFOs. I knew nothing about UFOs at all, nothing. Then I happened to become very interested in psychic ability. You know, like I would literally test myself, you know, like certain things. People would ask me questions and I would tune in and I'm like, this is great. I don't know where this came from, but this is great. Of course, not knowing that I had an abduction experience. So when I became very interested in the UFO experience, there was a group called Star People, and it was in, I believe it was in Massapequa, and a friend of mine had started it. And I'm sorry, she wasn't a friend. So I had read about it in some magazine, some newspaper. Within, I would say probably within the week, I did see an article, I believe it was in the Long Island Advance, where 2 policemen saw the same thing. Because I thought I was, what's wrong with this girl, you know? I mean, I'm a pretty smart woman, but I'm like, I saw something that was just so weird. That it would be about that height, about 30 feet, you know? you know, it was just, it was like, it was there and it kept spinning. And of course, it's about the unknown, it's about psychic ability, because I became very psychic and I was very interested in it, you know? And I didn't even know what the word psychometry was. I had no idea. I didn't know anything about mental telepathy. I was a young, you know, I was 22. I was raising babies. I didn't know anything about any of this. To get back to the Star People, this was after the fact that I went took the course in the school. Brian Levins, he started talking about scoop marks and stuff, and he said, I said, wait a minute, I have one of those on my arm. And he said, well, have you ever seen a UFO? And I'm like, it's funny you say that, because yes, that's the reason I was there, because I saw the little emblem. And he said, well, have you ever been regressed? And I'm like, why would I want to be regressed? Okay, regression basically is, our mind is like a computer. Every little minute thing we do, it stays in there, okay? Regression is, you're between like asleep and you're hypnotized, but you're really not hypnotized. You're aware of your surroundings, so you're not out of it, okay? And it basically, it goes back in time into your mind. And it's like sometimes we'll have a dream. Well, this would be something that would be similar, except it's reality, okay? So when I was regressed, and I do have a witness to that, the doctor, the chiropractor that I was working with at the time, he actually went with me, and he sat while I was regressed. Now, they laid me down on like a little side bed, you know. I remember they put a blanket over me, and very gently they bring you back. It's not like, you know, heavy duty. And then she brought me back to the date of March 27th, and how I found out the date was I had asked someone to do my astrological chart, and, you know, when I had found out that I did have an experience, they literally did the chart and said, I don't know what happened to you one day, Janet. She said, but it was something out of this world. She said, because no one ever has a chart like this, okay? But she said, you had a major experience, okay? The timing, everything fit together. So when I was regressed, the first thing I saw was me driving there, getting out of the car, looking up into the sky, and exactly the way they have it on TV, where the light shines down. I actually saw myself being pulled up. I remember the light was white, but then it turned blue. You know, I was literally being pulled up into this round thing but I was not aware of it at the time. You know, I was aware through my regression, but I wasn't aware of it at the moment that this was happening to me. I don't know if they put you in some sort of a hypnotic state when they take, I really don't know. So when I came into this ship, the first thing I remembered was what greeted me, and it scared the life out of me. In my regression, my mind was as clear as it is now, but my body was shaking like a leaf. Basically due, I guess, to the fear of what I saw. I actually saw, and every time I think about it, it freaks me out. It was actually a praying mantis. Now, I'm only 4'11", and this thing was towering over me. And didn't speak, none of the occupants of this ship spoke verbally. They spoke more, intuitively, where I could literally hear them. And when they spoke, of course they didn't speak, but I could hear it in our language. It wasn't garbled. At the end it was garbled, and I'll explain when I get down to that part of it. And I remember going into this ship, and I remember being greeted by this, praying mantis. And he had like a pointer, and at the end of the pointer, it was like what a teacher has, like they point on the walls, but this thing was lit up at the end. And I remember he started here, and he kept going. Now, mind you, I was 4.5 months pregnant with my youngest daughter. He kept going down around, and I remember he poked me here, and I remember saying, ow, that hurt. From there, and then he didn't do that anymore. From there, they put me like, I was stood against the wall, and it looked like a silver, like a square silver plate, which I figured That was probably like an x-ray machine or something. Okay, that was the only time I saw him. From there, I called them snowmen because they looked like snowmen, but they were apparently grays. They were very white, and they had big dark eyes, I remember, and they were speaking with me, you know, and I could see it was almost like I could see a heart beating there, like a red, you know, like a red heart beating. And there was one on this side and there was one on that side. And they were telling me, you know, that, not verbally, of course, but they were telling me intuitively, we're not going to hurt you. We promise we're not. Now, apparently my body was shaking like a leaf because this is something. Who sees this? No one sees this. With this, the next thing I knew, they were showing me different rooms. And the first room I remembered looked like a very dark room, and it looked like I was looking outside, you know, like the stars and everything. From there, they took me into a gold room, and I remember I wanted to go. I was very drawn to that room, and they said, no, 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 it's not time for you to go there yet. I had no idea what that meant. Then all of a sudden, what showed up looked like a reptilian. And he became, I still have the two grays here, but he was like an usher in a theater. That would be the only way that I could explain him. He didn't say a word. It didn't say a word. It was walking in front of me. Then it brought me into the first room I was in. Was a small pink room, and it had 20 incubators, 10 on the top and 10 on the bottom. And what I was shown was embryo, like, you know, like from the inception, and each incubator, it was a different embryo, but it kept growing, you know, in stages. By the time I got to the 20th incubator, by the 20th one, they lifted and they showed me a little baby girl. And I remember sobbing, saying she belonged with us, she didn't belong with them. And, you know, and I was told, well, you'll see her one other time. I don't know if that was just to appease me, but I remember her face was very full, her body was very, you know, almost like, well, she had no sun, so her body was very, very pale looking. And I remember she had the most magnificent eyes, but they weren't like ours, they were like alien eyes, but they were aqua. But they were so intense, it was like you could literally look into these eyes. That was the only time I saw that baby. Okay, so the second room that I went into was a pale blue room. And it had the same thing, it had 20 incubators. And each incubator, again, was an embryo, but it wasn't a human embryo. It was more reptilian. And I was basically told that they were, that they became hybrid, that's what it became. But the babies that I saw, the original, in the pink room, they were conceived at the same exact moment in time. So basically apparently what they were doing was they were making a hybrid. They were interacting the humanoids with the aliens. In other words, to make, I guess, I don't know if it was a stronger race. I don't know. I was never told the reason they were doing that. So it was the same thing with the 20 incubators, you know, the 10 on top, and each one progressed. From there, I still had my two little grays next to me telling me, don't be nervous, we're not going to hurt you, everything is fine. From there, they took me into another room, and it was a long room. It looked like a courthouse. I remember it was a very pale brown, you know, like a very light brown, like almost like a very light tan color. And I remember I walked in through this room. Now from there, the reptilian that was the usher, that I would call him the usher, I didn't see him any longer. So he left. But when they walked me in, I still had my two little grays next to me. When they walked me in, there were 3 beings here, 3 beings on this side, and there was a tall, very handsome man in a brown cloak. One was one, I would say, humanoid. One looked human. One looked reptilian. One looked human. And then they were equal. They were 6 altogether, and 3. They were interacting. Like, in other words, there was like 2 human with the reptilian in the middle, and 2 reptilian with the human in the middle. And I walked up, and they just stood there. They said nothing to me. They were just standing there. It was almost like a courtroom, a courthouse, I would say. When I walked up, though, there was, in the center of these 2, was the most magnificent being I've ever seen in my life. He was the most handsomest person ever. But I remember he had a brown cloak, like something like the monks wear. And I remember he had the bluest eyes. His hair was brown and a page boy. And well, in other words, page boy used to be, in other words, the hair is like this and it was like curled under. Very proper, but very plain. You know, just like that way. It wasn't short, it was long. To me, when I looked at this being, it reminded me of what God would look like. Literally, of how beautiful Jesus would be. That's actually what it looked like. But when I looked at him,
how would you know what God looks like?
well, in our mind's eye,
Okay.
you know, I would think he'd be a perfect being. And to me, this looked like a beautiful specimen of a person. When I looked at him like this, he was as human as you and I. When I looked at him at an angle, he was a hologram. Now, the next thing I know is I see this little thin wire coming out of, it looked like out of the wall. We talked before about, you know, about the way we speak and whatever, and it sounded like it was English, but at a very fast rate of speed. Like if you would put a record on fast, you know, like if it was like a 45, you put on a 78, and it was like garbled, but it was English but garbled, and then like a grunting between. It was almost like two different languages interacting. And when this started coming in, this is what went into my arm, and I remember saying, "What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing to me?" And I was told, again, intuitively, not verbally, "We're giving you information. When the time is right, you're going to know what to do with it." Okay? Now, mind you, I was 55 when I found this out. I was 22 when this actually happened. It's all the truth. You know, I'm documented. I'm written up in 3 books. You know, I've done TV shows about it. You know, and I don't feel that I should be holding anything back, because to me it's my life, and again, I'm not using it in a negative way, I'm using it in a positive way. But yes, there's beings out there, come on, you really sincerely feel, it drives me nuts, because sometimes, you know, when people say, "Oh, come on," do you seriously think we're the only being in the universe? Absolutely not. I mean, we have so many different types of people. Native American, you know, everything, and many of them are believers of all of this as well, you know. But I will tell you, I had gone one time to a meeting where it was very strange, and it was almost like what they call a candle, where you put your face into a candle and it brings back your former lives. And the former life that I remembered, and it really was amazing, was I was like an astrologer to the kings and queens in 1700s in a former life. And I remember I was in a castle, and the top would open up, like, you know, like you'd look out, and I would see the moon and the stars, and I would tell, but these were all kings and queens, you know, all royalty. And I remember I was banished. It was a whole new regime, and I remember I was banished, and I was banished down to the bottom floor, where from opulency, I went to living on straw, you know, on the straw. And I remember when I was stuck there. I was literally stuck there. And when I went through this whole scenario, I was just told, just open the door. In other words, I was locked in, but the door was never locked. Yeah. It was almost open. I just had to open up the door, and I would be free. You know. So I feel probably in former lives, this was all there as well, and as you know, as each lifetime came down, this is what I'm doing now. Again, my name is Jana Russell, and you've just watched Incredible Stories.